Hello, my name is Rick Houston, and welcome to the Moneyline Scene Vault Podcast, your source for all things NASCAR history. Presented by Las Vegas Motor Speedway, America's racing showplace.
That was the worst conversation I've ever had to have with anybody. I love them as like my mom and daddy. The one thing I admired about Jeff the most before I went to work for him, every time Jeff Gordon walked by me, he'd say hello. Not one time did he not walk by me and not say hello. Once you do this for so many years, and you love it like we love it, and I've always told people, there's no way you can make it this long and not love what you're doing.
The day NASCAR and all of us associated in any way with NASCAR forget its past, that's the day we don't have any future.
All right, so Talladega 2003, Elliott Sadler hits Jeff Green on pit road, and then Jeff hits you and you go flying. What happened?
Well, caution flag comes out, time for pit stops, business as normal. Jeff Green's coming down pit road. Elliott Sadler's in his pits. I jump out. Next thing I know, I hear a big boom, and here I go flying. I didn't know what in the world. I mean, at 55 miles an hour, what? I said, what in the world just happened? Knocked the breath out of me. I couldn't see for a minute because it just blinded me. Luckily, we had helmets on. They helped me over the pit wall. I said, you okay? Yeah. I said, I'm fine. I think I'm good. First thing I thought when I got hit, I said, what in the world just happened? Then I got to think, I said, I better get up off this ground because this car is coming. So I stood up, they helped me over the pit wall, and the EMS said, we're going to take you to care center. Okay, no problem. Well, come to find out what happened was, I asked Elliott Sadler the following week in Kansas. He said, I never knew I hit you guys. He said, I come out of my box looking in my mirror, coming up through the gears, watching who was coming behind me, around me, or whatever. He said, I never knew I hit you guys. I said, oh, yeah, you hit us, and then I went flying.
Yeah.
He said, I saw that. He said, man, I'm sorry about that. Things happen.
Were you hurt?
Just bruised up, sore. My hand was real swollen from where I hit the car initially. Then my thigh was sore because of the jack, pushing the jack back into me. That night I was like, oh my goodness. So I finally got to Kansas, and I called one of our crew guys. His dad's a doctor. I said, look, I can't take it no more. Have your dad call in some pain medicine. I'm trying to tough this out, but I can't tough it out.
How long did you continue to jack the car on race day?
Till the end of 2005.
Okay.
I'm glad you asked that question, but it's going to take a minute. Everything was going good. We knew Jeff Green was leaving. Bobby Labonte was coming in. Everybody was excited. It's December 19th. I walk into the shop. One of our front tire changers. I said, hey, when you guys want to start pit practicing again? He said, I don't know. Jerry Freeze wants to talk to you. All right. He was team manager. So I walked over to his office. I said, you need to talk to me? He said, yeah, come in and shut the door. I went, oh, Lord. Shut the door. That ain't good. So he said, we've been talking about, maybe you're not jacking the car at some point. I said, yeah, I know we talked about that. He said, well, I think the time has come. We're going to make a change, maybe get you to spot the races for Bobby. And that didn't sit well with me at all. There was no warning. Hey, let this be your last year jacking the car. The schedule's getting to where you're not able to practice as much, so forth. I would have been good with that. But anybody that knows me know how much I enjoyed and loved being a part of that pit crew for all those years. Been run over, got screws on my knee. I did it all. That did not sit well with me. It's not what they did, it's how they went about doing it. I don't want to get too involved in that because I don't want to offend anybody or upset anybody that made the decision, but that was bad. That was a really bad time for me personally, because I really enjoyed it, and I was looking forward to jacking the car for Bobby Lamonti at that point. But all things happen for a reason, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But I was a very bitter person for the 2006 season.
So when did you make the decision to move and go to work for Jeff Gordon?
Well, it wasn't immediately because I didn't. I mean,
was that a contributing factor?
Yes. At first, no,
Yeah.
because the position at Jeff's wasn't available at that time.
Yeah.
And I still had no intentions of leaving Petty Enterprises. And let me back up just a second. This decision to take me off the pit crew was not Richard Petty's decision. Okay? It was other folks involved, management, to take me off the pit crew.
Did you talk to Richard about it?
I did, after I got done. After it was over with,
After you left?
No.
Okay.
Before, after this was over with, I went to the secretary. I said, if you don't mind, I'd like to, when Richard has him in, I'd like to talk to him. I wanted to make sure he was aware of what just happened, and I was not happy about it, okay? So I went in the office with Richard. I said, Richard, I think you know what happened. They took me off the pit crew. He said, yeah, I know. And I said, for whatever it means, I can't take a pay cut. I don't want to take a pay cut. He said, not going to cut your pay. It's okay. Well, I appreciate that. I said, I had nothing. He said, this wasn't your fault. He said, but we're not going to cut your pay. So he was, Richard took up for me on that. He had my back. But he knew I wasn't happy. I said, Richard, I'll go ahead and say this. What I'm saying is about they didn't do it the right way is what really got my goat on this is they had somebody signed to a contract to jack that race car before they told me. That's what left the really bitter taste in my mouth. We could have done this. It could have been a different way of doing it. But that right there is what put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
I was very upset about that.
So that next year in 2006, what did you do on race day? Did you just stay on the coach?
No, I was there in case I needed help back up. I still dressed out in my uniform. I was there in the pit in case the man went down. I felt I was obligated, to do that. I still wanted to be a part of the team. I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, I fed off of that. I loved doing that. But I was there. Wasn't happy about it, but I was there. So we kept, just done that dressed out every week. Still went outside by myself, and I worked out, stayed in shape, no matter what it was, stayed in shape. So let's say, Archie, we changed our mind, things were not going well, we want you back on the pit crew. I'd have been ready. So
how did the gig with Jeff come about?
Later on in the year, like I said, we didn't have no idea. I kept on driving the bus, taking care of Richard. That was my primary job. Make sure Lynda and Richard were taken care of. And then I heard that his bus driver was leaving at the end of the year.
Jeff's bus driver?
Yeah.
Okay.
I said, really? Okay. I had some people come up to me and tell me that. And they said, you really need to go check this out. This might be a really good deal. I said, you know me, I'm loyal to the king. I've been there a long time. Archie, you really need to go check this out. So, all right. So I went up and talked to the bus driver, coach driver. I said, is what I'm hearing true? He said, yeah. I said, give me a phone number. So he gave me Jeff's stepfather, John Bickford's number. He handles the business and stuff, business side of it. So, all right, so I gave him a call, left him a voicemail, and said I'd like to, set up an interview, talk about this. So I knew Jeff's dad because he started out driving Jeff's bus from the very beginning, so we all knew each other pretty good. So he gave me a call. We set up a time, so.
What was Richard and Lynda's reaction to you leaving?
This was probably the best kept secret in NASCAR. Nobody knew about this. I signed the contract in Texas, in the fall Texas race at that time. We met over in the parking garage at the Marriott in Texas. Signed the deal. My main deal was I didn't want to let the cat out of the bag too soon because I didn't want people blowing Richard up, wanting to drive the bus. I was trying to look out for them, not, having people bombard them wanting to drive the coach, because it was a nice coach and a good deal for the most part. So I didn't say a word. The only people that knew about this was my wife, Jeff, and his stepfather. That was it. My family didn't even know. No, nobody.
Really? Wow.
So the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, we got home after the last race, which was Homestead. We got home. Actually, I dropped the bus off at Featherlight in Sanford, Florida to get winter maintenance done. Richard and them wanted some things changed and, and all that. And nobody even knew. Nobody knew nothing.
So Richard didn't even know?
Not yet. The Tuesday after Thanksgiving, I went over to their house after work. I said, I need to talk to you, you and Lynda, if you don't mind. So we went in the house, sat down in their kitchen, and they said, what's up? I said, well, of course, they were my first obligation. Lynda and Rich, I work for them. I drive their bus. What I'm going to tell y'all is not y'all's fault, and it's not my fault. But I've been offered another job to drive another motorhome for Jeff Gordon. And, of course, Lynda starts getting upset, emotional. And I said, she said, why? I said, well, because they took y'all to pit crew. I said, well, that was part of it. And I said, I just felt like things weren't, the changes that were being made didn't include me as much. And I just had a bad feeling that it was time I had a good feeling, time to move on. I think it's going to be a good opportunity for the next 20 years. You know what I'm saying? And Richard, he was sitting there. He was just sitting there. He's the king. He's being trying to be cool about it. And I said, Richard, I said, it's not what they did, it's how they went about doing it. He said, I know, I understand. And I said, you always told me, Richard, to never settle. He said, I know. And I said, if I felt like if I continued to stay here, I'd be settling. He said, I understand. And Lynda said, have you already took this job? I said, yes, I have. I already signed on with them. So, of course, we're all upset. Listen, that was the worst conversation I've ever had to have with anybody. I love them as like my mom and daddy, And when you're on that side, the personal side of them, starting with Adam,
yeah,
and then coming up, and then I'm taking care of them on the motorhome. When you cook and you clean and you do their laundry, so forth, that was my job. You become very close to these people. And it broke my heart to have to go in there and tell these people I'm leaving. So when it was all said and done, it's kind of funny. Before I got home, my phone was ringing. People was calling me, what in the world? What are you doing? I'm leaving. accepted another job with Jeff. I mean, it was unbelievable how fast news travels. I wasn't even halfway home. I was only in High Point, headed back to Winston, and the phone was ringing that quick. I thought, golly. So,
this episode is sponsored by MoneyLine, the all-in-one personal finance app designed to help you take control of your money. MoneyLine, an official partner of 2311 Racing, has been part of the racing community for years. And no matter if you're prepping for your next tailgate or just looking to upgrade some things around the house, with the MoneyLine app, you're one step closer to getting your financial future on the right path. With MoneyLine, you can borrow, save, invest, and earn money all in one place. At every turn, MoneyLine is helping you set the foundation for a strong financial future. Make sure to follow MoneyLine on social media and download the MoneyLine app today. Visit moneyline.com/hotpass for more information. You went from a team that was struggling at that time to run in the top 10, much less win a race, to one that was competing for wins and championships. How much of a change was that for you?
huge. Huge. I had to learn, I had to go from an owner, for me personally, go from an owner to a driver. Big change. But knew the caliber. You know, I knew Jeff all along. We all started at the same time. Knew the caliber of person. I've always admired how he run his motorhome. You know, I don't know what goes on in the garage, but I knew how he ran his bus. And I always looked up to him for that. So, to start off with, you know, like I did, like I said, it's my job to learn my people. You know, I need to learn what they want, when they want it, before they even know they want it. So, getting to know the people on the team, getting to know the John Edwards, the PR guy, which I've known before anyway, but getting close to those people, you know, start a working relationship in a whole nother situation. You know, Richard, like I said, didn't require much. Richard come out of the bus, get on a scooter or walk to the garage. I'll see you when you come back. You know, Jeff, a driver, put him on a golf cart, take him where, you know, his appearances, so forth. It's a whole nother world for me to start with. And I knew I had to, you know, my level was here. I knew my level had to go higher. I had to step it up so I wouldn't get left behind.
Did that sense of being a security guard, bodyguard, intensify?
It did. It did, because Jeff was still active driver, and being Jeff Gordon, you know, everybody wants a piece of Richard Petty, everybody wants a piece of Jeff Gordon. And some of the race fans, and we love them all, but some of them just, they get a little carried away. They get a little too close, and you have to watch out for that. Now, very self-conscious of today's world, so to speak, without being ugly.
Yeah.
And make sure I take care of my driver. That's my job. You know, everything picked up from the bottom to the top. All business picked up for me. You know, I wanted to make sure I had stepped up my game. Okay? That's what my main goal was. Step up my game for this guy here. Because I've already seen over the years how he operated. Okay? On and off the track. Okay? So, that was my first priority, step up my game. Okay? And then learn what he wanted. So.
How well did you know Jeff before you went to work over there?
Well, of course, not like I do now, but, you know, we know each other in passing. One of the, you know, because we, like I said, we were only, there wasn't but 5 or 6 of us to start with in buses, so we were all pretty, there, Walter, Jeff Bodine, Jeff, us, Hank Jones's bus. Rusty had a Eagle. You know, that was all. You know. The one thing I admired about Jeff the most before I went to work for him, every time Jeff Gordon walked by me, he'd say hello. Not one time did he not walk by me and not say hello. That meant a lot to me. That showed me what character he had.
So he didn't big time you?
No. And people can say what they want to say, but he's really good. He will sign the autograph. He wants to sign everybody's. And if he can't, he won't sign any. That's the way he wants to do it. He wants to sign everybody's. He don't have a problem with that. He's a very fair person.
What was the biggest surprise about working with him on a daily basis?
Biggest surprise. Well, once I got situated working for him, I just like, this is great. This is easy. You know, went from working for an owner in a family-based business, so to speak, to working for a driver. It was like I was being prepared for this. It was like, this is no problem here. No problem at all.
You talked about you had admired the way that he ran his motor coach before you went to work for him.
Right.
What does that mean? How did he run his motor coach?
You know, he ran it like, okay, here's the keys. It's yours. So I don't want to know nothing. You know, here, call this person if there's an issue. I like that. You know, it wasn't like, say, what I want to say here. And that's the way I want it. You know, it's my deal. Let me handle it. If I need you, I'll call you. Trust me.
Yeah.
So that's the way it was with him. I mean, I kind of sat back and watched it. Jeff, believe it or not, Jeff Gordon is not high maintenance. I found that out right off the bat. He's not high maintenance. You know, he wants you there to do your job. You know, that's it.
Who is the Jeff Gordon that you know now? And how much has he changed over the years?
Well, I'm sure, you know, we all change over the years. As far as we all mellow out, you know. We don't think we're Superman anymore, you know. He become a husband, a father, and I think that was the turning point for Jeff Gordon. When he become a father, I could see that. You know, after I seen him, like I said, we started at the beginning. We were all young till now. Just a great guy all the way around. I was very, I wouldn't say surprised, but taken that how much of the business that Jeff paid attention to over the years. You know, he wasn't just the race car driver. He focused on that, don't get me wrong, but the business side of it too. So now that he's on that side, he just picked it up and ran with it. You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest change. And I don't think many race car drivers can do that or have done that or can possibly do it. I mean, he loves the sport and he loves the business. He didn't want to just, I'm done. You know, and none of us want to do that. We can't do that. As you were talking about earlier, we can't, once you do this for so many years,
yeah,
and you love it like we love it, and I've always told people, there's no way you can make it this long and not love what you're doing. That's a big deal. It's a job. We got to get paid. We all need a job. But this sport of NASCAR, and probably any other sport, but for me, you have to love it to stay in it this long, to go with the ups and the downs, the long hours, we're 24. Once you're at the track and there are people at the track, as far as me goes, my job, once Jeff Gordon's feet hit the ground on Thursday until his feet leave the ground on Sunday to go home, I'm his 24 hours a day, no matter what. And that's what our job is. But Jeff, it's been pretty much the same with me for all these years. This will be I'll be working on year 17 with Jeff this year. He's been the same Jeff Gordon to me for all these years. Always caring. Ask me if I need anything, everything good, what's going on, And that's a relationship you'd like to have, Do your job. I mean, the first thing, do your job. You got to make sure you do your job. And but to see him, I mean, he's never really. I don't think he's ever been a really high-strung person anyway. But everybody has mellowed out. Everybody over the years, we all hit that pace where we just slow down. It's time to slow down. Yeah. Even for Jeff Gordon, it's time to slow down. Now he's taking on this role at Hendrick Motorsports, which he's, I think, the best guy for the job. Been there, done that. Knows everything about it. Won it all, done it all. Why not Jeff Gordon? So, a very good guy to work with. I'm sure the sponsors love working with him. I'm sure the drivers have a lot of respect for him for whatever he is. When he puts his 2 cents in, they listen to it. Why not?
All right. If you could not beat on the...
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. How big of a transition did he have from out of the race car into the next thing?
I don't know. Only he would be able to answer that question. I know he was very excited about doing the TV thing. Very excited. He loved that. He really loved doing the TV thing. We all did. It was something new. We all learned new people. We had no idea how that works until we went to work doing it. So I can't really answer that question because for me it really wasn't a big adjustment for me. I'm sure it was for him. I always tell people that Jeff Gordon for all these years has seen the racetrack through a windshield. Now he's looking at it through big windows in the booth. And I think he really enjoyed that.
So, how many miles have you driven over the years?
Last I counted, from starting at Richard Petty till now, is right at 1 million miles. And maybe probably a little bit more, but I just kind of figured up with each motorhome I had, adding a few miles here and there with other stuff, but probably at least 1 million miles.
How much longer do you plan to stay on the road?
Yeah. Well, as long as they want me to start with, they'll have me. But at this point in life, we take it 5 years at a time. And what I'm saying now is I want 5 more good years, and then I want to see how I feel. Because what I do is not easy. Driving up and down the road, a lot of hours, a lot of miles, whatever. And then I want to see how I feel. Do I feel good enough to do a couple more years?
Now, how old are you?
I'll be 56 next month.
Okay.
So I want to take it 5 years, start with 5 years, see how I feel. And then I want to say, okay, do I want to do it 2 more years, 3 more years? It's not so much quitting the sport. I love the sport and I love the business. But you got to be ready to make that step, because for us, it's a big step. I think you interviewed somebody that said they still wasn't.
Yeah.
They weren't ready. They still hadn't adjusted to it. And several people I've noticed over the years have left and they've come back because they're not satisfied.
Yeah.
Okay? Like I said, you love what you do so much. Nobody loves what we're doing more than me. I wouldn't have been out here all these years. And for me, when that time comes, it won't be leaving the sport. It'll be hard. It'll be leaving Jeff Gordon because of how good he's been to me, how good of an employer he is to me. That's what will be the hard part, is leaving him. And sure, I'll miss the sport. I'll miss being involved. But that will be the hardest part. That'll be another conversation that's going to be very difficult, just like I had with Lynda and Richard Petty. But I hope that's many years down the road.